We should call the meeting to order, the Donner County Fish and Game Commission at 5:36. Can we have a roll call?
Chairman Rob.
Present.
Vice Chairman Justin Nunez. Commissioner J. Tuck Steinrich.
Here.
Commissioner Kendall Smith. Commissioner Jimmy Faulkner. Commissioner Helen Ferguson. Commissioner Michael Keaton.
Here. Here. Thank you. Has anybody had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting? And if so, can we have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting? You got to push your little red button right there. The white button, Steve, you got to push it, and that way it'll get on the mic.
I approve the motion for the minutes.
Hey, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So, are there any public comments from any of the public present? Are there any public comments for anything that you'd like to address us with? Okay. Thank you. Status report, any fish and game issues other than the business on the schedule that anyone would like to discuss? So we have a couple of ongoing business items on federal and state lands. Anybody have federal or state land issues to discuss?
Nope.
Private lands. Anybody own property and having issues with fish and wildlife stuff? Elk Stakeholders Group. I finally have something to say about the Elk Stakeholders Group. I believe it's I called and talked to our friend down there, and I do believe he said that they're going to have an Elk Stakeholders Group meeting the 23rd or the 24th of May, and he's not sure yet where that meeting is going to be. We've offered a couple of locations at no charge to them up here, but he's thinking there'll be too many people present at the meeting, and so he was not interested potentially at Helen's Grange location. There's a couple of other places that I've suggested, but he's still trying to work on the location. And if it's in Eureka, it will be available on Zoom. Yes. Yes. So that's, I don't know exactly why it's been delayed so long or what their agenda might be at this point. We'll find out. Hi, yes.
My question, is there a problem with there being a lot of people at this meeting? Is that a valid purpose for rescheduling it to another location?
I'm sorry?
I thought I heard you say that the DFW does not want to meet here because there would be too many people. Is that a valid issue? In other words, I think attendance is very important. So to reschedule the meeting for Eureka for the sake of, quote, too many people is not a legitimate excuse, in my opinion.
I absolutely relayed the same exact thing to Sean. I think the meeting should be here since we're the folks up here that kind of spurred it in the beginning. And we're the folks up here who have probably, maybe I'm right when I say this, I'm not positive, have had some ongoing significant issues and reports to Fish and Wildlife about elk and public interactions. And so I definitely believe it should be here. And, you know, I don't know that we could get, as an example, the fairgrounds at a no-charge situation. I don't know whether the Smith River Community Hall in Smith River, I think we could probably get at a no charge, although we haven't asked yet. but I think we can do that. But we had a meeting up at the tribe's location up by the casino, and it was almost not big enough. I mean, it was pretty much full of people. And so I think they're kind of worried about having it someplace where somebody may not be able to attend or something. But I think it should be in Donner County. I don't know what the rest of the commission believes.
I think that obviously it should be in Del Norte County. I think we should demand it to be in Del Norte County. And you know, most of the interactions are happening in Del Norte County, and it becomes a problem where our paid officials from the state just don't want to travel. Sure. More than anything. And I would say that, you know, it would be very important for it to be here, not only, you know, for this commission's benefit, but the public's benefit and also the tribal benefit.
Yes.
In addition to that, my concern is also regarding the Treponemus associated foot disease, TAHD. I believe the DFW has already euthanized 73 elk in Del Norte County over the past 2 years. I believe 2021 and 22. I think we really need to weigh in on that. It's a huge concern for our elk in Del Norte County.
Definitely. Yeah, they have definitely taken out a bunch of elk with bad feet based upon the rot issue. So, you know, I don't think there's any reason in the world, any legitimate reason in the world why it shouldn't be here. And the Board of Supervisors, I'm sure, will get notified. They should send a letter, probably to Redding, to, in essence, demand that it be here. We should send a letter and demand that it be here. And if they need us to find them a spot, because they're so poor they can't actually rent a spot, we can find a spot that they can have the meeting on a no-charge basis, I'm sure.
Well, if there is going to be a fee, I would be happy to pay it in order to have the meeting.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they would not accept your donation, I don't think, but I think we'll get enough support locally to demand that it's here. I think we will. I mean, who knows, but I mean, it needs to be here. We're the ones that squawked in the beginning, and we're the ones that need to continue to get direct input, because as everybody knows, Zoom is really nice, but it's not effective. It's not effective for.
So many baby boomers who do not know how to use technology. And these are voices we don't want to exclude because of the technology glitch. We want them to use voice.
I thought the baby boomers knew everything about technology, and us old timers like myself were kind of left behind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not. I got no babies booming.
I'm the most behind in that technical stuff.
Yeah, I'm way older than a baby
I
boomer.
just got a smartphone about a year ago.
Thank you.
That's how far behind I am.
I have nothing on the Klamath Spring Run Chinook listing process, other than the fact that the proposed regulations that came into effect when the commission made the decision are going to be reproposed. So it will be July 15th or July 1st and through October 31st, or it will be July 1st through August 15th fishing, and then the quota will start August 15th if there is a quota. To add to that, it looks like they're going to raise the floor level of spawning on the Klamath from 40,000 to 140,000. So in all likelihood, there won't be any quota for the foreseeable future on the Klamath River.
Question, please. Are they considering both
In the California ESA listing, the commission, I believe it was in 2019, I believe, listed the spring Chinook. It's not up for consideration. It's already been listed as the California ESA.
I noticed, Mike, that you were wanting to add the petition for the listing of Chinook salmon. Is that for complete listing?
Yeah, it's actually item number 7 on this, and I'll explain that.
Oh, I've only got 6 on mine. Son of a gun. Oh, I'm looking at an old copy. Apologize. Okay, so the Klamath is fine. Do we have a Ditson report, Miss Jennifer?
I guess. Hold on. My memory's awful, but I know I typed it up earlier for the RCDs.
I have a Ditson report here somewhere. I have a Ditson report. I have a Ditson report if,
I just gotta make sure you guys are working hard.
I have a Ditson report here that you sent out for the RCD meeting.
Yeah, that's the one I was gonna pull up that I've got right here. So,
Okay.
we have counts up through February 8th, for this year, and the upstream migrants is at 10,674, so that's Chinook and Stillhead. They haven't been separated out yet. And then for comparison, last year, by February 8th, there was a total of 15,601. So last year was a pretty crummy year. This year's looking worse. We can see it in our hatchery trapping as well. The numbers, I think last year we probably got around 100 Chinook. This year it was like 76. We're still in Stillhead season, so we're kind of hoping maybe we might see a pulse of them with some more rain, but it's not looking good. I guess, and then we did get funding for 23, 24. I guess that's something worth mentioning, so we'll be able to continue the project for next season.
Thanks, Jennifer. Lake Earl hunting closures, I don't guess we have a lot to add today because Jeff isn't here. He did send in some information to everyone about the Wildlife Commission Board and their questions to them about the proposed closures for the future. Did everyone get those and kind of read through that a little bit? And is there anything we should discuss about that? Guess not. One thing about Jeff, he's right in the middle and right on top of all of that stuff, right? I mean, he's really doing a great job trying to continue some duck hunting and bird hunting in Donner County. So he's a good guy, definitely, it seems.
I really like how he gives multiple perspectives and he's trying to work with every party involved, which is awesome, with his alternatives, which is really good to see.
For sure, for sure. So, number 7.
Here I go.
Oh, now he's got the pictures, because that's what
Yeah.
confused me, so what it looked like is there was an expansion.
Oh, there is an
of the-
expansion.
Of the hunting closure, this is the one that concerned me.
Yes.
How it used to be
Yes.
down here, and then all of a sudden it's going all the way up to the Narrows.
There's definitely an expansion.
Yeah, so that pretty much effectively, more than half of Lake Colorado would be closed hunting.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's showing.
Yep.
So there's gonna be an increase in the space too, is kind of how I interpreted it.
And that's the second to last page.
No, that's why it was kind of out of order, so it was kind of,
Yeah.
see, it would be the
It's this one.
second. Yeah, that's the one I was even more concerned about.
So my question would be, is this in addition, or this is going to be after they've finished with the area around the mouth of the lake and now they're going to reopen? Right, but does this reopen the mouth of the lake where they're working now at Lake Tolowa? You know, basically it takes the shoreline of the beach, it looks like right around about a mile to 2 miles of the beach. It comes back up, takes up the mouth of the lake, and then in diagram, I guess number 2, it shows what would be Lake Tolowa and part of what used to be, what was the ranch out at the end of, that slough that comes from the airport out to, Yeah, yeah, and it comes out, all the way out to the point of the Narrows. Is that gonna be including that, or is this piece by the lake done? And they're going to allow hunting there again and then close this area? I guess that's my question.
I think this was a grant that they were building for the concrete board, and so the waterfowler sent this letter with all the proposed stuff saying, you know, before you get this grant, why don't you look at what's going on with the waterfowler?
Gotcha.
I don't know if the conservation board actually, gave the grant or not, because it already, I think the meeting already happened.
And they're very clear, as Justin said, they very much would like the grant to go through, but they also would, the grant request would be approved with the condition that no hunting closures will occur during the legal balance of state waterfall season.
Well, that's in the grant itself, the 25-year grant, it says it shouldn't take out any of the recreational opportunities for people in it.
Yet it did.
It did say that in the grant itself.
Right, but yet it did take out.
Yes, yes, it did.
Once it's completed.
No, this is very the grant, should not,
Well, they-
it says it, and he highlights it, he's actually taken sections out of the grant and highlighted them in this letter that actually specifically say, do not remove any, recreational opportunities.
Yeah, on the top of page 4.
Yeah.
The parking shall emphasize, well, I guess it doesn't exactly say that, but that's where.
He definitely is trying to get them to agree to the minimal amount of loss of effective hunting days, and not just a blanket closure that shuts everybody out.
Well, and then, you know, the people that are actually going out there are actually doing work when they supposed to be out there, rather than
Yeah.
having folks in the next day.
Yeah. So, hopefully Jeff might, I don't know when that meeting was, I can't remember.
Yeah.
When is it?
3 days from now?
Well, it'll be over and done with by the time. Hopefully Jeff stays right on that, and I'm sure he will. It certainly seems like it, so it's too bad there's so few people and so many rules. I mean, it only affects a limited number of people in the community, but the people in the community that are affected are not real happy. And there's not enough of them. You would think that putting together the waterfowlers and having 150 members would be something of significance. And hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. Hopefully they're able to get some benefit, get some agreement, is a better way to put it, I think, so. Okay. Any other discussion on the Lake Earl and if not, we're on to number 7. Mike,
Ready?
ready?
So, there's been a petition to National Marine Fisheries and NOAA for an Endangered Species Act listing of all Chinook salmon from Cape Mendocino all the way to the north side of the Columbia River. The petition comes from the Center for Biodiversity and the Native Fish Society, and it includes direct verbiage on spring Chinook and fall Chinook. I've spoken with a lot of different people about this petition, and this is a very vast area, and it's very expansive, and could be very, if it comes into play, very crushing for a lot of different entities outside of just sport fishing, commercial fishing, but also farming, logging, development, and anything involved. We all deal with coho salmon and how that in effect affects everybody on a daily basis. And you know, granted, if there's a major problem and they need to be listed, I'm for that, but I want to see some science before this comes forward, and as of now, there's not a lot of proof. Where we're at in this is when the state of California decided to list the spring Chinook on the Klamath River, the science that came out of that was really inconclusive on whether there is a specific ESU for spring Chinook versus fall Chinook. And so this petition is very scary, because if you take the number of months and include all Chinook, rather than having specific, these are springers, these are fall, those levels become dangerously low. Everybody is in agreement that spring Chinook right now are in trouble, but to have a total lumping of all Chinook salmon is pretty tough. At my last engagement, I know that NOAA and National Marine Fisheries were going to be meeting with the petitioners and also the tribes. I haven't heard anything back from that yet to see if that happened. Mainly the Yurok tribe, the Tolowa tribe has not even been contacted.
I mean, Dan just requested some, like, the hatchery trapping data and stuff, so we didn't share that with them, but they haven't actually spoken to the tribal council or anything about it, no. They just requested some data from us.
Okay, so I know the NorCal Guides and Sportsmen's Association has engaged on it, and you know, basically at the state level, you know, there's no fight. You know, they're already at that point. So where I'm at with this, I will be speaking with I have a 10:40 podium appointment tomorrow with the Board of Supervisors, asking the county to write a letter in opposition and to engage all of our Northern California counties and boards of supervisors to also include opposition, and in the name of gathering data and science. This is a huge thing, you know, and most of the upper echelon of National Marine Fisheries and NOAA don't believe that it's going to come through, but with the unclear science right now, not declaring an ESU or you know, that they're their own specific unit. It is very tribunal, I guess, or very unclear what could happen with this. It comes at a very poor time when the science is not specific and when it's black and white, you know, so it's really gray right now. And the worst thing, in my opinion, that could happen at this point is to get a federal listing for Chinook salmon as a whole and not have the science done. Unfortunately, you know, we as a fishing guide and somebody that makes my living by these fish, I want to see them protected. We are on a downward cycle, and over my 30 years of being involved with these fish, we've been up and down several times. I hope that that we can at least get a slow enough progress in this to where we can really see some definite data, and hopefully the tribes get to engage and get their words heard as well. So.
I got a question to ask when you, or educate me. On the science, is that just like in-river science, or are they, when they look at these listings, are they actually looking at the impacts that is going on in the ocean?
Yeah, a lot of the ocean stuff is kind of speculatory. You know, it's speculative. It's basically it's all based on speculation on what's living in the ocean, what feeds in the ocean, all that kind of stuff. Most all of the data on Chinook salmon, Springer or Chinook, is in river. So that's part of the problem in my opinion. You know, when we have a place like the Smith River that's, you know, as protected as it gets from the Washington border all the way to Mendocino, you know, Cape Mendocino, the Smith River is about as protected as it gets and natural, you know, and we're having a down cycle there. Just look at the Didson. We're having a down cycle there. You know, there's the problem, obviously, to me, we have to go westward to find, you know, and so I hope to get some of this out in the open and aired out a little bit and find out exactly what's there. You know, Jennifer, you and Jimmy, you guys work in this field. You guys probably see some of the studies from the salt, you know, but if the little fish don't have anything to eat, we're going to have problems. And, you know, over the last few years, bait supplies have been down by great, you know, just on the commercial side. So I can't even imagine what bait supplies are there for Chinook. And I think that's where we kind of need to look at this. But there are many different commercial associations that are going to be involved in this, and you know, this will be effective as you know, from the national side. So I mean, the federal government it puts this in place, and we could be facing a lot of stuff. And 90 days to make public comment to see whether this petition is accepted or not. I think we need to slow things down here, slow the processes down, and unfortunately the way that works is by completely contesting it, you know, and then at that point get to the study process and money allocations, you know. Otherwise it goes through, and then we get to the process while everything's shut down. So I'm hoping for the front end of that, and instead of the back end.
All right.
Mike, you mentioned with the spring run that the spawning and escaping on Klamath went from 40 to 140. Do you know if that's for the southern population of orca? Because that's, I don't worry about that a lot, but that's being thrown in the mix too. That a certain allocation of Chinook is going to be, I believe, proportioned for
From what I understand,
That might take care of some of it, so that if it increased that much, I think it's been enough time to increase, you know, on the Klamath, so that it hasn't been met. This is for, you would probably know since you've been at meetings, it's been at least 4 years since the minimum escapement, or it's been real close to that. So at some point in that, it's been in an overfish status, but it seems like to me that I'm kind of, the problem is if you say, oh, it's not gonna pass or whatever, I don't have to worry about it. You see how that goes.
well, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's,
So as far as your question, as far as the orca goes, most of those are what they're considering from Sacramento fish. That's where that allotment's going to come from. Their numbers are going down. The reason I see the floor levels coming up for the Klamath is repopulation, new waters post-dam removal.
right.
So,
When you take out Iron Gate, which is a fair amount
yeah.
of production.
Of hatchery fish, yes. So, yeah, so they're looking at repopulation above Iron Gate all the way to J.C. Boyle. And that expected or increase in numbers was going to be for repopulation purposes. So, is what I can see as far as that goes. And you're correct, we've been within 15% of that 40,000 for as many as 8 years, and over the last 5 years, within 5% of that 40,000. So if we increase that by 140,000, it'll be basically a no adult take fishery on the Klamath. So the floor level is counted at post fishing season every year through spawning survey and hatchery returns. So, well, on the Trinity side. So you'll still have the Trinity side. The Trinity River hatchery has no plans of being closed, but they do fairly in-depth analysis over, say, the Salmon River, the Scott River, you know, obviously the Trinity, South Fork Trinity, Blue Creek. The tribe's done some wonderful work there as far as counting spawning and doing that. And you know, it's funny, you know, like the Shasta River one year had over 23,000 spawners in it alone, and then the Scott River the same year only had like 4,000, you know, and it'll flip year to year in depending, you know, and it's kind of a trust-based thing. I mean, there's nobody overlooking that, but I think they're looking for the number of fish that they're finding. The only time that we're going to be really off cue or out of skew would be the years that we have major rains or flooding type activity in like the month of October, early November types of things, and those spawning surveys kind of go out the window due to those high water events. And obviously we haven't had any of those lately, or not many of those lately, you know. So, and Salmon River, you know, this year had a major slide event that produced a lot of muddy water, so it could be skewed a bit, but it's I figure those numbers to be fairly accurate, you know.
Shasta River and Scott River, they have video where they count, they record and count individual fish. The other one, because the hatchery are more visual, like the ones we do on Blue Creek, Norte surveys, same like the Salmon River. Then like Trinity and Klamath, Blue Well, Iron Gate. Well, I think Bogus Creek has a video where because it's small creature, but most of them are pretty accurate. I would agree. They're they're fairly accurate. It's always gonna be an underestimate. I don't think there's a way to overestimate with any of those surveys.
So with those video weirs, J-Tech, if you're not familiar with them, they literally put a fence out across the river, and they have a camera on both sides, and somewhere between 36 and 48-inch opening that these fish go through. And it's kind of funny, if you watch them during low water periods, they'll stop. The whole run will stop. And they'll sit behind these video weirs, and then you'll get an increase in level up through. They actually impede quite a bit.
Yeah.
They actually impede quite a bit, and predators, oh yeah. Yeah.
But like Mike already mentioned it, but if you got a lot of fall rain after earlier, that hasn't been an issue there. The problem on the spot has been that there hasn't been enough rain this year included. There's never enough rain to get up into the valley where the spawning is. So it's happened several years in a row. Scott was some trouble this with that dry falls. They can't get up to where they want to spawn. On the flip side, it's kind of weird. Every place they do the surveys, it's showing a pretty sharp decline, except for the Shasta River, which is kind of up, or at least steady too.
What they've found is that on these years when we're facing these low water years, there's a lot of main stem spawning, and the scary part about this year's main stem spawning is that we had, several mudslides in that, but they did a count on Horse Creek this year, which is not far above Scott River, and they found that it wasn't as impeded, I guess, and they were actually doing quite a bit of extra spawning on Horse Creek. So they're getting the job done in most cases, but that valley, the Scott has been in trouble for a couple of years as far as getting fish up into the valley.
Yeah, 'cause I just seen, when I was hunting this year, I saw there were some people looking at the salmon at the mouth, where the Scott River flows into the Clash. And it's actually pretty cool to see it, because I haven't seen it before. And there was quite a few. And then you had your pesky steelhead trying to mess it up. It was cool to see that.
Some of the,
That one pool right above the bridge on the right off 96.
yeah.
It was really interesting to watch.
The next bridge up, if you turn up and go up Scott River, some of the coolest spawning activity I've ever seen has happened right there. And watching the steelhead come in and have one of the big male kings hit him, in the side, and just see the glitter come off, the scales come off, and pretty neat stuff to actually watch. And yeah, pretty cool stuff. But yeah.
I guess back to my point, I'd like to see a little bit more effort on the science side to understand what's going on. I know it's hard, but we need to know more about our ocean than, it always just seems like to me, since I've been involved in all this stuff, the clamps are always on the river and not the ocean. And we need to, as a society or a world or wherever you want to look at it, look at that more than just rivers.
That is one thing you can realize, that there's just not good ocean conditions for Chinook anywhere. There's been fisheries closures on the Yukon, like the Chinook on the Yukon are definitely gone. Just about everywhere there's Chinook, it's just pretty, overall, the ocean's not good for Chinook right now.
The one thing that I've noticed over the years, and maybe this can be a sign, but when we've had big crab years, when we've had big, numbers of crustacean or crabs, we've usually followed with good years of salmon. And I've definitely, over the last 30 years, been able to put a parallel with this. My hopes are, they eat a lot of the same things. People think that crabs are, they eat rotten, dead, and all of that, and no. If it's rotten, they don't touch it, right? And so, obviously they eat clams and shrimp and whatever they can get their hands on, but it's always good food, right? And so the salmon actually thrive on a lot of the same stuff, and people don't have an understanding of that. And so when we have big bait years, we have big survival rates, right? And so, yeah, the drought has caused some spawning problems. We've just exposed a lot of those, right? Just in our short talk here today. But the simplicity of it is that when we have great numbers of anchovies, smelt, bait, you know, all across the board, we're going to have better years for our survival rates, whether it be Chinook, coho, steelhead, whatever it is. And so it'll be really interesting to me at this time next year to see what they're having as a bumper year as far as crab. And if my theory is correct that we do have some more, you know, some added Chinook. And all in all, we need some rain. All in all, we need the rainmaker, right? And no matter what. But you know, we did have a fairly decent end of November, and we had a decent December, and we had a decent start of January. We hope that those salmon that did spawn, and what we did see in the main river was a lot of carcasses this year, and we hadn't seen a lot of carcasses in the past. I know Mill Creek, at one point this year, it was, you didn't even want to row down that side of the river. They were stinking so bad. And I know that Jones Creek up where I live was full of salmon at one point, you know, doing their spawning. So hopefully they got there and did their thing. You know, obviously the numbers on the Ditson are lower. And, you know, obviously the timing of their spawn and the carcasses can be, you know, totally dependent on water levels. They wash down whenever they come down, right? And if we have monumental water levels at the right time, they wash out, we never smell them, right? Or never see them, those types of things. But it was neat to see a lot of main stem spawning again on the Smith. The cable flat, you know, behind Hyuchi was littered with reds both sides of the river. Hadn't seen that in a couple of years. You know, a lot of main stem spawning that we hadn't seen in quite a while, and on into late December and early January that we saw. So that was very, very good to see, and hopefully we can make a comparison to this year's banner crab season and next year's salmon run. We'll see what happens.
You know, one would think with the potential impending doom from a listing on Chinook that there would be some outcry to try to help control seal populations in the river. Now we all know seals in the river are catching a captive audience, because those fish that come in are not able to get away as easily as they can in the ocean. And hey, they get caught in the ocean too. But when you see seals up past the forks, they should not be there. That is not where they should be. They should not be there. I doubt that there's any push from that standpoint, but that's a big problem. That's a big problem. I don't know how many seals may have been spotted on the Ditson passing through. Obviously, they're bigger than a salmon, and
Yeah,
so
there's less this year because there's less fish. I think Jesse had said, and this would be like the upstream and the downstream detections, I think it was like 460 something detections of them going back and forth. So, and then I think the highest number that, because it's part of our Ditson project, is because of the predation, we are keeping tabs on the seals and a little bit with the sea lions too. But the spot counts at the mouth, I think the most I counted last year was like 256 or 265, something like that, which is a lot. I think like 20 of them actually.
So 460 sightings up to February 8th, is that correct?
So that would have been for 20 from last year. And
Absolutely. Well, I know that the pinniped predation is part of this whole thing and has to be part of this whole thing. You know, the Marine Mammal Protection Act definitely has worked. What the process is from here forward, you know, is remains to be seen. But I can tell you that the behavior of the fish in stream, both Klamath and Smith, which are my primary areas of working and expertise, and especially the Smith River, the habits of these fish have changed so much. It's really unbelievable. You know, to find a steelhead in more than 48 inches deep water anymore is very rare. And I've watched the seals and I've watched the steelhead work side by side every day of my life, basically. And, you know, the steelhead are laying in that real shallow water. They can feel them coming, and they get out of the way. And they'll get right into the willows, and they'll hide right in the willows. And they don't live in the traditional spots like they did, you know, 10 years ago. I mean, it's changed that much just lately. And, you know, I don't mean to toot my horn, but I would consider myself an expert. I've spent more of my life there than I have at home, and it's amazing to me what's happened over the last 10 years, especially. It's amazing what's happened.
Well, you would, when they put in that act to protect the seals, it was probably the right thing to do. But within that act, there was no population count or progression of increase in population that might stop that protection. And so they're protected, and everything they feed on is not. And they really don't have any business being in the river. That's not their home. Their home's in the ocean. And maybe the ocean, their home, is so poor in feed that they have to go to the river. But that's not our fault. That's not the fish's fault. If they want to protect the fish, they need to protect the fish.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned this, Rob, but this is a learned behavior. I watch it generationally between the seals and the sea lions, and you know, there was a couple stellars for a few years that were, you know, they were going all the way to Carter Falls on the South Fork, and they were putting it to them up there. I mean, getting as many as they could, and just a kill and a throw, not necessarily a feast. It was a kill and a throw. And I've watched, you know, generationally, you know, the seals, the California seals, and their pups come. And, you know, obviously you see the next generation, I can't identify them with a number on their back, but you know what it is. You know, over 30 years, you see one, you know, then two, then three, then four, you know, and it's down this year, but every time we get water, they're there. And they stay a lot of times day after day. They're there in the morning or in the evening when I go home, and they're there in the morning when I get there. And they live in a very specific area within the state park. They live right in one of the deep holes. They circle around, circle around, circle around. You see them coming from above the forks in the morning. I put in a lot of times before daylight. You see them coming up from above the forks, and they'll come down river. They stop at this spot within Jed Smith State Park, and you'll see them there for the remainder of the day. The light goes off the water, and they're back up the hill again. And they stay within the river system, never go to the salt for days and days. And then as the water level drops, they go back to the salt. And I figure they probably must do their hunting at the saltwater as the fish are more impeded, you know, and are probably circling or doing their acclimation points, and they're easily hunted at the mouth. But, you know, I don't know as far as traditionally how that was handled, or if there was any record.
Boy, if you want traditional knowledge, yeah, that was a food source, so, yeah. I mean,
Right.
I've been working on that for a couple of years, so hopefully we can make that happen. There is work being done, you know, with the ditch in, but there's more that could be done. And at least it's a start,
Right.
you know, both sea lion and seal for us.
I know there's,
And then maybe we just start, and I agree, it's a learned behavior, you know, stuff that I've read and researched, you know, they did the studies on the Columbia, and they teach their young.
right,
You know, and it's just kind of like your favorite hunt spot, you tell somebody about it, and there's somebody there the next year, and then the next year, and the next year, so.
right,
But yeah, I mean, that's the way, I say on the tribal side, that we could possibly, you know, get past the Marine Protected Act, because it would be a food source. And I have been trying to do some learning exchanges to learn that, because, at least on the preparation of it, it's really not that hard to harvest them. It's just preparing it so it's actually a good source of food.
right.
And I was just at a conference for 8 days and reached out to some folks up in Alaska and then some Inuit people in the Northwest Territories on sea hunt. So they'd be like, yeah, we'll show you where how to do it. Can't necessarily do the act, but you can assist and then process. But yeah, there's some efforts moving forward.
Good. Well, it's very important, I think, that the traditional aspect be a part of it, you know, a big part of it. And I'm in support of that 1,000,000% in any way that I can help. Please let me know. On the other side of it, there are a lot of ways that we can haze legally. And probably a lot bigger ways to haze than what people actually think are legal. The problem that we have with the Smith River is that, you know, it's 90% owned by either federal or state throughout, and most of those activities within that ownership are illegal within that ownership. So the hazing, in-river hazing would have to take place under private ownership or even county ownership if those laws weren't in effect within the county as far as that goes. And you know, they've used a lot of this up in Gold Beach in the hazing part of things, and it's 100% perfectly legal nationally. It just depends, you know, from the federal side, it depends on what that entity, you know, state or national park, you're not going to be able to use detonators, that types of things to haze them. And so, you know, where they're living, where their home is right now, you cannot haze. And so it's very important that some of that come along as well through this study process. And, you know, as of now, that's why I am asking for the county to oppose this, is so that we could potentially look at some of these things that Rob has brought up and other people have brought up to me through this process is that there are a lot of factors. And, you know, we can see a major change in a 4-year cycle if we can make some of those moves. So a listing, an ESA listing like the Marine Mammal Protection Act, once it's in place, it's nearly impossible to get off.
Nearly impossible.
And so if we can make some of these changes and see a great increase on some of these changes, that would be very, very important, and that's why I am in direct opposition of that. And I would like to make a motion tonight to write a letter from this commission in opposition of that after this discussion is over.
Anyone else have some added comment? Anyone like to second Mike's motion?
I second Mike's motion.
Let me make a formal motion. Yeah, so what I want to make a motion to draft a letter in opposition of the petition to National Marine Fisheries and NOAA to list the Chinook salmon from Cape Mendocino north to the Columbia River. And I volunteer to write the letter if this passes.
I second the motion.
Steve, second the motion. Any discussion before we vote?
Do you want to add in there that you want more sound science done? Like, more specifically, you know what I mean, kind of call them out on why, or just, and then go that route?
Yeah, so,
Explain it to them, you know, because, you know, you just say that and it looks like,
yeah, so I will,
I want that to happen. I want that to happen.
I will include our discussion in this letter, the sound science, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, all of these things. I will distribute the letter to you guys for approval or additions, and then once that's approved, then we'll send it.
And I would think that the board would be agreeable to that, but I guess we'll find out when we come to that stage. Oh, is there a second to that motion? Mike just made an official motion. Steve seconded. Is there anybody, is there a vote? Let's, all in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it, so Mike will write a letter and distribute it to Jackie, and Jackie will distribute it, and we'll try to get it done, hopefully, within a month.
We better have it done then.
Yeah,
We better have it done then. We've got about 45 days left of
yeah.
public comment.
Have you had any discussions at all with any of the board of supervisors, individuals yet about?
I have.
Okay, so
I will
the
present to
groundwork
them.
is set.
I will present to them tomorrow morning, and we'll find out their decision at that point.
So, any additional correspondence?
I talked with Sean Street, and he and Jeff Stoddard will be here for your May meeting. I will attempt contact Armando Quintero through their public email and their address and see what happens there, unless somebody has a better way of contacting them. They're both gonna be here in person.
One real quick addition, I had the privilege of meeting our new forest ranger for Six Rivers National Forest. Really neat guy, young deputy, ranger plans on making his home here. Really good guy, really into helping things out within the forest. He's been at the boat ramp. We've had some major problems over the last few years of break-ins at the Forks launch. He's been there consistently, overlooking things and checking for special use permits, which guides have to possess to guide on the Smith River. I've seen him, you know, as you guys know, I live in Big Flat. I've seen him on South Fork Road a lot, patrolling, and really good guy. Definitely somebody that's a pleasure to talk to. And that seems to be kind of rare in that environment, but he's a great guy, and I am definitely happy to have him. I can't remember it, J-Tuck, I forgot it, but, huh? I will, yeah, so, yeah.
law enforcement.
He's law enforcement,
Have the district ranger or whatever.
yeah.
Law enforcement side, because we have that woman for a while.
Yeah, so she moved on, I believe, and he's taken her place, and really a decent ranger, And I've made the touch between he and the DFW warden, so he kind of knows what he's doing when he's checking fishing licenses and whatnot.
Has he met up with the state park, the new state park rangers too?
I don't know. I haven't.
There's two young people also.
I haven't had any interaction with the state park rangers at all, so I don't know. But
Because they all kind of overlap each other.
I would bet,
Yeah.
I would bet that they've had a rendezvous.
you know, it's funny. I would have thought that they would have all met, and he said he hadn't met any of the Fish and Game wardens, so I kind of. Hey, no. Yeah.
But to see that, that's the state and that's the
Yeah.
feds.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and they compete a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah, well, I shared some phone numbers and sent an adjoining text introducing, and so I hope they get on the same page. And there's been some issues within the river, young guide in Clearwater using a drone, finding fish with a drone, and, oh, yeah.
Probably not legal.
Oh, no.
Probably.
And I can tell you in the national park, it's a felony, but, yeah, so, they were getting together on those issues and trying to,
Smooth it over.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, same guy. Same guy, yeah, he's drawing grids, and I said, well, that, I never dreamt. Yeah, he was surveying, all right. Yeah. So they're dealing with that issue, and it sounds like they're getting it handled, and you know, we tried to kind of handle it in-house, and, you know. Huh? Yeah, but the millennials act a little different than we did, I guess. You know, so anyway. Justin's smiling. I won't consider you a millennial, Justin. I know in other places it's really a popular thing, and it'd be neat to kind of maybe establish some sort of a program to get some more kids in. I know that Helen did the pheasant hunt for a lot of years, and I think, is the pheasant hunt still alive?
I didn't hear about it this year.
No? Yeah, so, well, Frank did it and Helen did it for a long time. Huh? Well, maybe we could, as a project for our group, figure out somebody to take a lead on something like that and get it going, and okay. I notice a pretty good influx of wood ducks flying around. Yeah. Very cool. I'll second his emotion.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.